day that the Lord's been close and the Lord has been ministering. We are in our series of This Is My Story. And we're continuing on with that tonight. And Sister Calais has talked about This Is My Story. I'm going to pour out worship. Right. Sister Julie talked to us about This Is My Story, my home, my refuge. Right. We talked on Sunday, This Is My Story, Jesus, the author and the finisher. Right. And tonight, Sister Jessica is going to talk to us about This Is My Story, the hands.
Seated. I'm going to talk tonight about This Is My Story, the hands that shape us. I want everybody to look down at your hands. From the youngest person to the oldest person in this place, we all have hands, don't we? So I believe that this message, it doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter if you're a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a child, who you are, that this message can apply to you and can minister to you. When we're first born, the first hands that touch us are the hands of the doctor, as that they draw us forth out of the womb, and generally they give us a smack or a poke, and after that smack or poke, there's a noise that's heard. It's the cry of a newborn baby as they inhale their very first breath and they exhale, normally a scream. But everybody in that room, there is peace and there's joy that floods them when they hear that sound. The first hands that touch us, the hands of the doctor or midwife, they are the tools that are used to cause us to breathe in the breath of life that God has given to us. And as we exhale, it causes our respiratory system to begin functioning and working. So these are the hands of life. The very next set of hands that hold us or that touch us are normally the hands of our mother, the one who's carried us and nurtured us for the last 9 months until that we were born. And there is a reading I would like to share to you that I wrote about a mother's hands. These hands held a newborn tightly against her chest, in awe and wonder at the miracle that was looking back at her. These hands soothed scrapes and bruises with a gentle touch and a kiss. These hands held on tightly as we crossed a busy street. These hands brought correction when I chose to disobey. These hands taught me how to cook, clean, and be a lady. These hands gently guided me through the darkest days and the brightest days. These hands were always there teaching me things I didn't always think I needed to know, because she knew that one day my hands would be holding a miracle of my own. A mother's hands, in the way that she teaches, the way that she guides, they're instrumental in the life of a child. Then there are the hands of a father that wrap protectively around their newborn baby, realizing the responsibility and the reality that their new role in life is fatherhood. Perhaps the next hands that hold the child are the hands of a pastor and first lady, as that they lift the baby up and declare over them, "Hear, O baby, the Lord our God is one Lord." Amen. These will be the hands that continue to shape, to mold, and to form us. After this, there are many sets of hands that might guide and influence our life. most for the good, but perhaps some for evil. If the hands that are shaping us and forming us will allow the hands of the master potter to rest over the top of their hands, then we will be shaped according to the mold that the master potter had designed for us when we were first designed. Just as a mother's hands rest over the top of a baby's hands, teaching the baby how to hold a bottle. Just as the hands of a father rest over the hands of a child, teaching them how to hold on to the bars of a bicycle or a tricycle. Just as the hands of a teacher wrap around the hands of their student, teaching them how to properly form letters. Just as the hands of a grandparent rest over the hands of a preteen, teaching them how to bake or how to sew. God has given each of us a great responsibility in molding and shaping the lives of those around us, because your choices and your decisions affect those who God has placed in your care. We must be so careful and make sure that the hands of the master potter are resting over our hands, because no matter who we are, we're influencing the life of someone else. We are Christ's example to them. You have been called to be his hands and his feet on earth, and how will they know him unless that you show them? Each of our hands have been equipped with a tool. Our hands are that tool. Our hands have been anointed and blessed, and our hands are there to be the love and the compassion of Jesus Christ. Amen. But there's a stipulation to that. In order for our hands to continue to be anointed and blessed and to be that tool of love and of compassion, they have to be resting in the potter's hands. Okay. From the youngest to the oldest, our hands are a tool, but it's our choice and what that tool is used for, whether it's used for good or for evil. Okay. God wants your tool to be used to hold a Bible, to be flipping a Bible study chart as that you teach someone about the love of Jesus. Amen. To be steering the wheel of a bus or a van as you pick up children and people in our community to come to his house. To hold the doors that they walk in and you're greeting them with a love and a smile. Those are hands of love and compassion. Those are hands that are being locked in tightly into the hands of the potter's hand. To be the hand that rests on the back of someone who is at the altar seeking after God. In any of those situations, it's not our hands that are acting alone, but it's the hand of God that rests on our hands. If we're walking with him and our hand is in his, he is guiding it and he's directing it. But the moment that we begin to use our hand to commit acts of violence, to steal, to begin to hold and grasp the things in our hands that are of a sinful nature and not pleasing to God, he has to withdraw his hands and take a step back. Because he cannot be part or party to acts of violence, abuse. He can't be party to acts of murder, destruction, damage to other people's property, things that go against the word of God. He has to back away. This is not God's desire, because he has given us the tools and he desires for us to use them properly. Amen. And again, I would say this isn't just for adults. This is also for children. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. You are influencing someone. The things and the acts that you commit with your hands, they're influencing someone. There is someone who's looking up to you, no matter your age. Right. That's seeing and watching. What are you doing with your hands? Whose hand are you holding tightly to? Because it doesn't matter what choice you make, there's always someone who's going to be leading you and guiding you. if you take your hands out of the hands of the potter, there is an enemy whose hands then you open yourself up to. Because don't just think, well, if I take my hands out of the potter's hand, who is Jesus, because I think I know what's better. I think I know how I want to control my life, which direction that I want to go. When you take his hands and he has to remove his hands off of you and take a step back, it's not you alone that's molding your life. But there's an enemy that steps in, because you can't be your own master. You either serve God or you serve the devil.
That's right.
It's one or two choices. You can't just live on the fence and say, okay, God, today I'm in your hands. Mold me, make me, do whatever you want with me. I surrender my life to you. And then the next day, well, today I think I want to go here. I want to do this. And I know the potter's hands can't be on my life. So just for today, God, I'm going to slip out from under your hands. I'm going to stand over here. But then tomorrow I'm going to come right back. You can do whatever you want with me, God. Here I am. Mold me, make me.
All right.
You can't have it both ways. It's either one or the other.
Right. Amen.
Right.
In Jeremiah 18, 1 through 6, it says, "The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house." I'm sorry. I just feel the presence of God so strongly. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but God is speaking. And he's talking to someone if you will open your ears and hear his voice. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again, another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter, saith the Lord? Behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in mine hand, O house of Israel. God was speaking to Jeremiah and had given him a message to give to Israel, that there was a potter, he was molding, and there was mar, it was messed up, there was something wrong with it, so he started it again, and he molded it, and he made it just how he wanted to do with Israel. And they hadn't been listening, hadn't been following. He wanted to change their direction. He wanted to mold them and make them. And so God does with you. He has a plan and a design for your life. And we can't see the end result of where our life is going. We're human, and with that comes that we don't know all and we don't see all. We can only see so far in front of us. But from the moment, like I said in the beginning, that you took your first breath, there were hands that were molding you, that were making you into who you would be today. And God had his hands on you from the moment you took your first breath. Right. If you made mistakes or you messed up, he just wants to mold you. He wants to, let's redo this part over here, and let's make it a little bit better. That's what God is desiring to do. And on Monday, I had, from the first time I texted Sister Wood, I had a thought, and I sent it to her. And then a couple weeks went by, and I sent her another thought. And finally, today, I sent her another thought. And I had all these thoughts that God had given to me, and I was trying to stick them all together and make a message. In reality, he just wanted to use one of those. And on Monday, I just spoke, go get this out of your cabinet. So I did. Didn't really know what I was supposed to do with it, what it was meant for. And so it sat on my table, and then, I don't really know who did, but it got moved to the fireplace. And then it landed on my desk. And I picked it up and I was looking at it and thinking, what does this have to do with anything? What am I supposed to do with this? And there was just this image that God gave me of a person standing, and they were picking. It was like that there was this clear coating, this glaze that was over them, so to speak, and they were trying to rub it off, and they were picking at it, trying to get rid of it. And so there was this analogy that God gave me of a piece of pottery. When it's formed, when it's put on the wheel and it's shaped and it's all designed, sometimes there can be little divots that get in there, little scrapes and scratches, little air pockets that get in there. And if there's not a protective glaze that's put over this piece of pottery, in the beginning it's okay and it's strong and it'll withhold, but over time it gets weakened because it's not solid. There's mars in it, there's scratches in it, there's holes in it, and over time it'll begin to crack to the point of where it's no longer usable. But the potter takes it, he dips it down in the glaze, the protective coating, and all those divots get covered over and they get filled in. Don't take your hands out of the potter's hands. Don't go back to those old things. Maybe there's been scars. There's been situations in your life that have left a scar or a mark, or maybe an air pocket on your life. And God's covered it with the blood. He's dipped it down in that glaze, and he's covered it with his mercy and with his grace and with his righteousness. Don't go back to old things and pick them back up, because it's the same thing as somebody taking a pocket knife to this, and where that glaze is covered over those holes, they begin picking at it and begin trying to take it out. And it not just only takes out what's been filled in, but it makes the hole bigger. It makes the crack bigger, to the point where it was just small, it was covered over. Now it grows bigger and it grows bigger. When we use our hands to commit acts of unrighteousness, those are the times that God's hands are removed from ours, and we begin designing and trying to control our own life. Don't bring up what's been placed under the blood. We are the only ones that can do that. Those things that God's placed under the blood, those sins that he's forgiven you of, those hang-ups that he's helped take care of, those addictions, those things that we couldn't get rid of on our own, and when we tried to, it just made a bigger mess. Amen. Because instead of saying, okay, Potter, help me fill this in, help me fix this, we thought, well, I know how I can take care of it. I know what I can do to fix it, and we made just a bigger mess of ourselves. Don't go back and pick up those old things, because it's only you that can do that. The potter, once he dips you down in that glaze and he covers you with his mercy and his grace, he doesn't remember those things. He doesn't look at this piece of pottery and say, now I remember there was a big hole right here and there were scratches over here. All he sees is a completed work. You're the only one that can go back and pick up old things. And so I say, don't bring up what's been put under the blood. Don't let your flesh rise up and say, I will move in this direction, and take yourself out under from the covering of the potter. God's plan for you is far greater than what you can begin to imagine. It goes beyond what your understanding is. So let God mold you. Let him make you in his image. Because when we try and do it on our own, I know I'm repeating this, but when we try to do things on our own, we just make a bigger mess of it. And God is standing there saying, why won't you just let me mold you? Don't you see that I can see more than what you do? Don't you see that my hands are here? I'm here to help you. I'm not trying to make your life worse. I'm not trying to bring in more complications and make it rough on you. I'm trying to mold you because I've got a plan for your life. And I see something that's far greater than what you can begin to even dream of. When you try and do it on your own and you go ahead and try and skip ahead on your own time instead of allowing the potter to do it in his time, he has to back away. We can say, but I'm doing what the potter wants me to do. I'm making the right choices. I thought this is what I was supposed to be doing. God has to back his hands away and say, but that's not my timing. You're that piece of clay that keeps moving over in this direction when I'm trying to move you over in this direction. We've got to stay submissive in the hands of the potter. As I was getting ready tonight, God showed me this person. I didn't see if it was a man or a woman. I didn't see a face. I just saw a person that was sitting, and he was behind them, and he had his hands on both sides of them. And he was trying to mold and to shape. And they kept moving to this direction, and he would try and mold and shape, and they'd move in the opposite direction. At one point, he picked something up, and he placed it on them. And soon they grabbed it and ripped it off and threw it off. And so he tried to mold them, and they moved in the opposite direction of the way he was trying to move them. And he finally stood up, took his hands off, and just watched them. And he was trying to mold and to shape. And they kept moving in this direction, and he would try and mold and shape, and they'd move in the opposite direction. At one point, he picked something up, and he placed it on them. And soon they grabbed it and ripped it off and threw it off. And so he tried to mold them, and they moved in the opposite direction of the way he was trying to move them. And he finally stood up, took his hands off, and just watched them. We can think in our mind, but God, you don't understand. You don't understand the scars of my life. You don't understand the people that have hurt me, that have abused me, that I thought I could trust, and they just used me. They've lied on me. You don't understand. I know that when you went to the cross, they beat you, and those people that you came to show love to crucified you. The person sold you that was supposed to be there for you and be your help. But that was too long ago. You don't remember what it's like. You don't understand, and you don't remember. It was too long ago. You can't possibly understand what I'm going through right in this moment. And God says, but don't you understand? Every time that you rip your hands out of my hands, every time that I'm trying to lead you and I'm trying to mold you, and you fight against me and you push the other way, don't you understand that those things that you say I don't understand, you're doing to me? When I'm trying to lead you and I'm trying to shape you because I love you so much. And I only want what's best for you. And you can't see what's going to happen tomorrow. You can't see what's going to happen in a week or a month or a year from now. But I see it. And so I'm trying to prepare you and I'm trying to shape you. Don't rip your hands out of mine. Don't fall back into old thought patterns and old habits and old ways of life. Because I want to shape you and I want to mold you to be the best that you can be. But you have to keep your hands in mine. You have to stay pliable and workable so that I can mold you. And that's what God is calling us to do. It doesn't matter what stage you are in your relationship with God. It's a daily decision of keeping your hand in His hand. It's a daily decision to push down our fleshly desires and say, God, I'm going to stay pliable. I'm going to stay soft where you can mold me and make me what you want me to be. I don't want to pick at your mercy and your grace and open up old wounds and old scars that you placed under the blood. I want to keep them under the blood. I want to keep them under your mercy so that I can be the vessel that you want me to be.
The hands that shape us, whether they are from outside sources, where we use our own hands to try to take control. The Lord brought something to me for concluding this message, concluding this thought tonight. The Lord brought to me that when we take our hands out from under the hands of God, then we begin to fill them with the things of this world, and they become tools of destruction, ruining not only our lives, but the lives of all who are around us. We ruin relationships. We destroy trust. We create jealousy and envy and hatred. And the impression that He gave me was that it was the hand of Eve that reached out from under the covering of God and grasped the fruit. The moment that she filled her hand with disobedience, she destroyed her home. She destroyed their place of dwelling. They were no longer able to even live in the location. She destroyed the location where they lived. She destroyed her home and everything about it. She destroyed their security. Her husband lost his job.
True.
It was his job to be the caretaker of the garden. And with one movement of her hand, reaching out from underneath the covering of God, taking her hand out from underneath his, she destroyed their food source. She destroyed their home. She destroyed her husband's employment. She also had one child become the perpetrator and one child become the victim of a murderous crime. She used her hand to invite a spirit of murder into their home. Her hand, which had been petting and caressing the animals, a hand that was an instrument of tenderness and kindness, in one moment's time and in one flash of a decision, that hand became a
a tool of destruction that destroyed everything she loved and cared for. Hands that shape us. Look back at those hands again that Sister Jessica asked you to look at just a little bit ago. Just hold them out in front of you and look at them. Because those hands that you are looking at, they may look empty in this moment, but they are weighted down with responsibility for shaping someone's destiny. Within those hands that you're looking at lies a responsibility. Are they going to be hands that are always going to be operating and functioning under the hand of the Almighty God as He guides them and as He directs them? I wish I had the picture right now that I would like to have to put up on the screen. And it is hands. There is a potter, and his hands are wrapped around a vessel that is on the potter's wheel. But over the top of that are the hands of God that are resting over the top of that potter's hands and assisting in the shaping of the vessel that's being created. There's the heavy weight of responsibility here right now. And the Lord is talking to us tonight. What are you going to do with your hands? I never looked at that thought of Eve in exactly that way before that the Lord gave that to me just as we were walking out the door. You see, those same hands, those are the hands that can take someone else by the hand and walk with them to an altar of prayer. It is the same hand that can rest on a back. It's the same hand that can dial a phone, that can pull up a Zoom screen and say, let me teach you a Bible study. This is about us being shaped and formed according to the mind of God tonight. But it is also about what are we doing with our hands in the shaping of those who are around us. Because we have a major responsibility. Jesus, I'm just asking you that tonight that you would just sweep across this congregation. God, your word has been delivered so powerfully and so beautifully here tonight. And we hear the cry of your part as you make appeal in this place tonight. That we will use our hands to shape lives. That we will use our hands as they rest under the hands of the Master Potter. That our hands will not be used in acts of sin and acts of violence. For God, it can take just one moment that we can make a choice. Jesus, I ask you that tonight, that we would put our hands under the hands of the Master Potter, and that we would use our hands as you desire for them to be used. And we ask it in the lovely name of Jesus.
To me.